Hi friends, welcome to my advanced or intermediate advanced hip opening and hip stability class. For today's class you will need 2 blocks, or they're preferable. If you don't have 2 blocks, then using 2 books can be really helpful. And if you're curious about, what makes a class advanced or intermediate, I do have some other levels of hip work on my YouTube. And advanced doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be doing, one-armed handstands or folding in half with crazy back bends. For me, it generally means that I take down the amount of cueing on some of the more basic postures and some of the more basic cues so that we can focus on other small details within a posture to make even a simple or a seemingly simple posture suddenly more complex. Today we will be getting into a little bit more strength work, really toning the outer hips or the glute med, and we will work our way up to a pressing drill to work on a puppy press. However, it won't necessarily be required that you go upside down at all. It's a great strengthening drill even if you are not interested in playing on your hands. There will be opportunity today to get upside down, and again, that's not required. You can still get a lot out of this practice. So yes, if you're feeling like maybe you're more on the intermediate side and you're not sure if this practice can work for you, I will offer some modifications, and there'll be options to do something 2 or 3 times. If one was more than enough, feel free to just stick with one or do something else that works right in your body. And I've had a lot of questions about, when am I going to put more inversion and advanced inversion work up here, or intermediate inversion work. And while I do plan to put a few, Erin Kelly, my teaching partner, and I already have a lot of mini workshops in the intermediate and advanced level on authenticmovements.com. So you can check those out. So I won't be really remaking a lot of like handstand courses, forearm stand courses, pressing courses, because those are already up there. And we rely on those, as part of our yoga income. I'm happy to provide kind of free previews here on YouTube of, what my teaching style looks like at different levels. So with that being said, let's get started today in butterfly or Baddha Konasana. So bringing the soles of the feet together, making sure you have one of your blocks near you, removing the flesh from underneath your sit bones. That way you can just get a better grounding down through the pelvis, into your mat, into the earth. You could take your hands to your ankles or behind you, just making sure you have a nice straight spine, broadness across the collarbones. And for just a breath or two, let's close our eyes and settle into our space. It's been raining on and off today in the jungle, so that's why you've got me indoors here underneath the house. But as per the usual, please excuse any noisy puppy interruptions, random bird calls, the sometimes deafening sound of rain throughout these flows. Perhaps starting to cultivate a slight constriction at the back of the throat, warming the breath, slowing the breath, balancing out the inhales and the exhales, and just preparing yourself for this space. I don't mean to scare anyone away, with class definitions of advanced or intermediate or warnings about what's to come. It's just important to be open, know your own limits, trust your own limits, and trust that they really are your own limits. It's not just, oh, I can't hold this chair pose any longer. It's, no, I should back out of this posture. It's best for me and my safety at this time. There's a big difference, right, between the discomfort that comes with growth and the discomfort that leads to injury. Softly blinking your eyes open. For just a second here, grab onto your ankles, lift up a little bit through the sternum, push all 4 corners of your feet into each other. Push them so much into each other, you can start to feel your outer hip turn on. And if you're not sure what that means, you can take your hands to your outer hip here and maybe even squeeze your sit bones together. And as you do so, really make sure you're pressing through your big toe mounds as well as the pinky side of your foot and your heels, because what tends to happen in some of these Baddha Konasana forms is that we peel the feet open like a book. And that's another form, but today we're pushing through all 4 corners of the feet. And by doing so and squeezing the sit bones gently towards the midline, you should feel a toning in this outer hip. Maybe it's not very comfortable. The knees drop down a little bit more towards the floor naturally without having to push them. And it's almost like somebody was pressing their feet into your hips and then dragging you down for a more grounding sensation. Grab one of your blocks, place it between your feet, widening the hips out a little bit further. Maybe you have to put your hands behind you to prop yourself up a little bit. That's fine. Or sitting with your back against a wall is also great. Here, pushing all four corners of your feet into the block. Tone your outer hips, so squeeze your sit bones together. Squeeze them together and ground them into the earth. Pull your navel in and up. Release. Maybe you go to the medium setting, your choice. It's pretty intense for the beginning of class. I know, I understand. Again, propping myself up so I can keep a nice straight spine, pushing all four corners of my feet in. As I get wider like this, it becomes harder to keep those outer hips toned, so squeezing the sit bones together. And it's fine if your knees come a little bit higher. This is a wide opening to the side, especially early on in class. Whew, slowly release. Maybe you go to the wide level. And if you have two blocks, it's great to use two blocks for this. Otherwise, make sure it's on your heel. That's the most important pressure point. Pushing all four corners of the feet. And here's where it gets really hard for me to root down through my big toe into the block. Squeezing my sit bones together. Hug my navel in and up. And making sure that the shoulders aren't slinking forward. Broadening the collarbones. Beautiful. Remove the blocks. Stretch your legs out once. Squeeze the knees. After a lot of deep flexion, it's always good to do some extension. Then come back into regular Baddha Konasana. See if it feels any different for you. Let's take some light cat-cows here. So pushing all four corners of the feet into each other, squeezing the sit bones together. Hands on the ankles. Pull your heart through your biceps. Navel pull to spine, but leaning with the sternum. Press the back of your skull back. Almost like you're giving yourself a double chin. As you exhale, push down and away, puff up the back of the heart really firmly. Feel the shoulder blades separate. Suck your navel in and up. Inhale brings you forward, cow pose. Exhale slinks you back of the sit bones. Inhale, front of the sit bones. Heart leads. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Audible breath is always welcome here. Inhale. Sometimes that sharp exhale shh out of the mouth can really force you to tone your low belly and suck your navel in and up. Now start to free this movement, bringing in some waving motions, some rolling motions, whatever feels good. Maybe you stop at one side. I did a lot of core work yesterday, so my obliques are a little bit sore. Going the other direction if you haven't yet. And slowly swing your way back up to neutral. Give your knees a rest by extending the legs and squeezing them. And then come back to Sukhasana. Easy sit, so crossing at the ankles. Just getting ready to warm up our shoulders. Like I said, we are going to lead up to some puppy pressing work, and some of this work of abduction of the foot, so slicing away from the midline, and how that plays into the outer hip and the toning of the outer hip. So we do need to warm up the shoulders so that they're ready for pressing. So wherever you are on your mat, as long as you can see me, it's fine. We're just going to start taking some slow arm circles. And what you really want to pay attention to here is that this is moving from the shoulder. I'm not moving my torso in those cat-cow motions anymore. I've got a nice straight spine, and this movement is from the shoulder. Nice and slow. It's actually harder if you go slower. So like you're swimming through big vats of honey or pudding or something else delicious. I love chia pudding, chia seed pudding. I haven't done a recipe for that in a while. I should probably do that. Trying to keep both arms approximately even, really big circles for now. And trying not to let the rib cage flare out. Mine is wanting to. Gotta knit it back in without hunching over. Let's take it to medium circles. So maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet in diameter. This is the one that I really hate. I hate medium circles. I don't know why. Starting to kind of tone and maybe fire up. Maybe you're starting to feel all the different parts of your deltoid or the big shoulder muscle, the front, the top, the back. Yes, feel the burn. Tiny circle, still going forward. Arms directly out to a T. Fingers are engaged. They're together here. You can keep them separate, whatever feels better for you. This doesn't really feel good for most people at all. But again, this is that discomfort that comes with growth, not necessarily discomfort leading towards injury. All right, let's pause. Take tiny pulses, the palms forward. Yes, knit the little ribs in. I'm sorry. Tiny pulses back. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Tiny pulses up. Could do a little dance if that helps. Tiny pulses down. And you think it's going to be over, but I'm really sorry. It's not. Tiny circles backwards, or whichever is the opposite direction of what you're going before. We won't be here as long as before, I promise. Mostly because I need my shoulders for the rest of this class, and they're quite tired from yesterday. Medium circles back. Again, the worst. Maybe you feel some like creaking and burning here. I definitely do. Some like shaking as some of the bigger muscles start to fail and seize. It's okay. It's okay. Breathe through it. Breathe when you think you can't. Big circles. They feel so much better. Don't go too fast, even though you want to. Nice. And slow. Oh, release. Shake it out. Whatever that means for you. For me, it means like roller coaster dancing, freeform arms. Maybe a little bit of shoulder massage. And I'm sorry, it's not over. Grab your block. And see, here's where if you've got a foam block, you're winning at life because it probably weighs less than my cork block. If you have a wood block, I'm sorry. Staying in your Sukhasana, and if this ever gets uncomfortable, you know you can just stick a block underneath your sit bones. Take block in hands. I like the most surface area of my hands on block as possible, and generally the widest setting of the block will have my arms almost shoulder distance apart. Now, get your arms ready. Extend straight out from the body. And we're just focusing on some unplug and replug actions here of the arm bones into the torso and kind of what that does for the shoulder blades. So set the pelvis, gentle tuck of the tailbone, navel pulled in enough. Keep the ribs from flaring out. I want you to think about taking the block away from you. So unplugging your arms, feeling your shoulder blades separate just a little bit. We're not really rounding forward like we do in cat pose. We're just unplugging the arms. Now replug them, suck them into the shoulder girdle. Again, you're not opening up through the sternum here. It's just a movement of the arms. Unplug, replug, unplug, squeeze the block, replug, unplug, replug, unplug and stay. Squeeze the block. Try to turn on your triceps or your underarms. Ew. Replug, unplug, replug, unplug, replug, unplug, replug. Oh, put it down. Rest. Shake it out. So I don't know if you guys felt that, but I definitely did. And the best thing about these online videos is that if you're like, I didn't feel that at all, well, great. Pause the video and do it for another 3 minutes, you ninja. So take your block off to the side. You're going to want both blocks kind of near the front. And we're going to do one more terrible thing, and then we'll start flowing. So coming into Vajrasana near the top of your mat, so that means knees together, feet together. But don't get too comfortable because you're going to rock forward and tuck all 10 of your toes underneath you. And if you have short pinky toes like I do, that means you have to physically tuck them under. And now as much as you can, you're going to sink your sit bones onto your heels, squeezing your inner ankles towards the midline. Even here, sit bones towards the midline to tone the outer hips. Do you see that? I grow so much lighter on my feet when I tone these outer hips. Squeeze the sit bones together, find some buoyancy. Now, that's relative, because if you wear high heels or you have tight arches, no matter how much you squeeze those outer hips, this is still not going to be particularly fun. So we are going to distract ourselves a little bit from these fire toes as we warm up the feet by taking some fire fingers. So bring your arms up overhead, palms face forward. Spread the fingers out really wide, really, really wide. Now squeeze them into tight fists. Now spread them wide. Squeeze them. Spread them. Squeeze them. Spread them. Squeeze them. Spread them. Squeeze them. Faster. Every time you open them all the way. Every time you close them all the way. Tight little fists, wide fingers. Tight little fists, wide fingers. Go faster. Go faster. Hug your navel in and up. Go faster. Go faster. Go faster. Keep going. So any kind of pressing or even pressing prep drills uses so much extension of the wrists. So So there's a lot of bend in the wrists, and the fingers have to do a lot of work, and it's really important to warm them up and both strengthen and stabilize the wrists. So if you can't feel it, your forearms may be heating up. We're kind of warming up and awakening all the little stabilizer muscles in the wrist. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going again. Dancing helps. Ooh, maybe not in the feet though. And when you're ready, release. Gently karate chop the forearms. I always feel like Popeye after that, like my forearms like really big. I just ate a bunch of spinach. They don't look really big. They just feel that way. Now, I didn't forget about my toes, but they were a little less terrible while I was torturing my hand. It's really important to come off of them slowly, especially if you haven't done this a lot. Ooh, it's okay, toes. You're going to let them come back to the earth. And then if it feels okay, hug your inner ankles towards the midline. Take your fingertips behind you. Rock it on up, stretching the tops of your feet. Now, hug your navel in and up. Maybe you can bring your hands to cactus, balancing your shins off the ground. If you can, great. If you can't, just put their shins down. It's going to be fine. We're going to go from here. Take an inhale, squeeze the shoulder blades together. As you exhale, pull your forearms together, touching elbows, touching forearms. Gentle separation of the scapula, the shoulder blades. Inhale, opens us up. Exhale, brings us together. Still balancing, still stretching the top of the feet. Inhale, open. Exhale, close. One more. Inhale, open. Exhale, close. Carefully rolling down 1 inch at a time until our whole shin's on the ground, and then making our way into tabletop. In tabletop here, if you need to stretch your wrists for a second, feel free. Rocking back and forth. Saying hello. This one's always really intense for me. Forearms towards the front of the mat, kind of rocking back, getting into the fingers even. And then one more wrist strengthening drill. Coming back to our palms, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. Wing the elbows wide. Wrap them towards the back of the mat. Keep the micro bend here like we were squeezing a block in between our forearms. No hyperextension of the arms, whether it's here in down dog and plank. So use the muscles of your arms. This is an arm strengthening posture. Now I know I just said shoulders on top of the wrists, but now shift your shoulders forward about 1 inch or 2 past the wrists. So there's weight in the hands. Spider your fingers. Claw your fingertips into the ground so that they turn white. Beautiful. Keep this motion. Pull your navel in and up. Peel your right palm off the ground. Leave the whole length of your right fingers. Slowly, so you're smashing something soft, like a soft tennis ball, lower your palm back down. Keeping the shoulders past the wrists, peel your left palm up. Slowly lower, smashing your imaginary ball. Right, lower, left, lower. Keep going or peel both palms off the ground. Lower, moving at the same time up, down, keeping the wrap of the triceps, so keeping the micro bend in the arms. And always keeping the weight shifted past the wrists. Inhale up. Lower. If this is really easy for you can take this from a plank pose or just back your knees up a little bit. You might start to feel it in the back of your forearms this time. So we felt that other drill in the front of our forearms more. This is in the back. Down. 2 more. Up. Down. Up. Down. Beautiful. If you need a little forearm love, you can use your knees. And I have a few wrist breaks scheduled in today, but if you ever need more wrist breaks, please feel free to take them, because our wrists in these inversions and even things like down dog and plank, a lot of times we ask them to act like our ankles, and they're much thinner and more mobile than our ankles, so they need more stability work, and they need to, be given a break every now and again. So coming back to tabletop here. Taking some cat-cows, but instead of regular cat-cow, we're going to move into vomiting cat. So all that means is on the cat pose, when we exhale and we puff the back of the heart up towards the sky, at the end of the exhale, we're going to hold. So no air in the body. Hold the end of the exhale, and from there, suck your navel in and up to your spine to create a lock. So this is kind of like nollie breathing, which we usually do standing up. It's not quite as intense. And we'll hold that exhale for we'll hold that no breath lock for just a second or two before we first release it and then breathe in, so we don't make any weird noises or anything. I mean, It's nothing wrong if you make weird noises, but it's more comfortable if you release the lock first. Inhale first, pulling your heart through your biceps. Tilt your tailbone up, push the back of your skull back. Exhale, push the ground down and away from you. Breathe all of your air out. Puff the back of your heart up towards the sky. Hold at the bottom. Suck your navel in and up. Release the lock. Inhale through cow. Exhale, navel. Lock release. Inhale. Exhale. Navel. Lock release. Inhale. Exhale. Navel. Lock release. Inhale. One more time. Exhale. Navel. Lock release. Inhale. And come back to neutral. Beautiful. I'm just going to move away from the wall a little bit so I don't kick it. Extend your right leg long behind you. Left arm out in front of you. Sunbird. Tiny pulses of the leg and the arm. Trying not to move the spine at all. These movements come from the limbs, the back of the right hamstring, the right glute. All 5 toes and the right foot pointing towards the ground here. Beautiful. Now extend the left arm out to the side. Extend the right leg out to the side, trying to bring it up to parallel. Tiny pulses. Beautiful. Lower the left hand. Keep the right leg lifted. Flex the toes. Bring the foot forward. See if you can tap your toe in front of your right hand. Bring it back, out to the side. Tap. Bring it back. Moving slower than you'd like. Tap. Bring it back. Tap. Out to the side. Hold. Pulse. Slice the knife edge of your foot up towards the sky. Pull your right knee in towards your nose and your next exhale. And release back to the mat. Beautiful. Take it to the other side. Extend the left leg long. Right arm. Tiny pulses. Sunbird. Moving from the limbs here. Extend the left leg out to the side. Extend the right arm out to the side. Tiny pulses. Place the right hand down. Bring those left toes. Try to tap them in front of the left hand. Beautiful. Back out to the side or hit the wall. Lucky me, I have a wall to rest on. Bring the toes forward. Back to the side. Toes forward. Back to the side one more time. Toes forward. Back to the side. Slice the knife edge of the foot up towards the sky. Pull the knee into the nose on the next exhale. And lower back down. Beautiful. Wherever you are on your mat, take your hands out in front of you another 8 to 12 inches. We're just prepping for an activated puppy pose here. Maybe turn them out 5 to 10 degrees. Keep the hips over the knees here. Wing the elbows wide. Wrap them towards the back of the mat. Come up on fingertips like you're hiding a little butterfly underneath the palm of your hands. And magnetize your fingers towards the midline to kind of secure the arch. Feel the arch of your hand turn on. Now I'm hugging an imaginary block between my forearms. That means as I begin to drop my chest down, plugging my arm bones into the shoulders, I'm probably not going to be able to bring it down all the way to the mat. That's fine. Keep the tricep wrap. Keep the external rotation of the arms. Widen the sit bones out and back behind you. Rock to the inner edges of your knees. There's no reason the legs can't be active here. It's okay if your arms shiver. It's okay if they shake. Keep squeezing that imaginary block. Beautiful. Slowly come out of this. Make your way back into tabletop position and grab one of your blocks. Take it on either the small or the medium setting. I'm going to do medium because I've got wider set hips, and bite it between your upper thighs. Your hands from your original tabletop can move forward about 6 inches or so. And again, I like to turn mine out 5 to 10 degrees from the midline for more wrist mobility. Tuck the toes, bite your block, squeeze your block. Squeeze it together and almost, if you could, squeeze it out back behind you, widening your sit bones. Wing your elbows wide. Wrap them towards the back of the mat. Keep the micro bend. Push down and away. Claw your fingertips in the mat. Hover your knees 1 inch off the ground. Squeeze your block. Touch your knees lightly. Pick them up. Touch and pick them up. Bend your elbows more. Touch your knees. Pick them up. Touch your knees. Pick them up. Touch. Bend your elbows more. Touch. 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 Bend your elbows more. Touch. 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 Straighten your elbows or micro bend. Slowly, much slower than you would like. Straighten the legs, sending the hips up and back. Downward facing dog. You can remove your block or keep it if you really like it. Take a quick walk out with the feet. Giving yourself some love, whatever movements you might need here. Some side stretches. And make your way back to a stationary downward facing dog. Gaze up at your hands for a second. Look at your arms. Are they hyperextending? Wing the elbows wide. Wrap them towards the back of the mat. So as if you were screwing your hands away from each other like jar lids. Keep that. Plug the upper arm bones into the socket. Bring the head back to neutral. Inhale, right leg straight and strong behind you. As you exhale, round forward, bringing the right knee towards the right armpit. Inhale, drop right knee to wrist. Exhale, bring it back up to armpit. Inhale, drop it down to the wrist. Exhale, shh. Bring it back up to armpit. One more time. Inhale down. Exhale, shh. Hug it up. Puff the back of your heart up. Feel your shoulder blades separate. Next inhale sends your right leg back behind you. Exhale, cross the body. Right knee towards the left armpit. Inhale, drop it down. Exhale, shh. Bring it up. Inhale down. Exhale, shh. Bring it up. Inhale down. Exhale, shh. Bring it up. Hold. Puff the back of your heart up. Feel your shoulder blades separate. Next inhale extends your leg long behind you. Pretend you have a paintbrush between your first and second toe. Begin to lubricate that right hip. Painting as much surface area as you can. So go under the body, side, forward, behind. Pause. Bend the knee, open up the hip. Come up high into the left tippy toes. Spin to the outer edge of the left foot. Now, bend the left knee enough so that you can plant the entire sole of the left foot. The long edge of the foot faces the back end of the mat. Tense your right fingertips. Bend deeply into that left knee. Maybe you can take your right hand to your right knee. Open up into Vashisthasana, Ping Dog variation. Curl your heel in close to your sit bone. Beautiful. Using your right hand, close your hip. And begin to puff up your back of your heart as you bring your right foot towards the top of the mat. Slowly, carefully, you can take your hand behind your thigh if that helps. Trying to land without a sound. Turning on that right hip flexor and that right outer hip to help. Walk your right hand inside of your right foot. Take your right foot out an inch or so to the right. Upright lizard. If you need to put your knee down, feel free. Otherwise, just take some gentle rocks back and forth, hugging your right knee in towards your right shoulder. Hello, right hip. Good morning. Keep your left arm planted. Inhale your right arm up towards the sky. Maybe you begin to straighten your right leg. Maybe you turn both your feet to the right. So all 10 toes are pointing to the right. I'm on the knife edge of both feet here. Stay here or take some tiny Anushanasana dips. So bending into the right knee, lowering the hip. Inhaling up. Exhaling lower. Inhaling up, exhaling lower, inhaling up, exhaling lower. This time as I inhale up, I'm going to hold. I'm going to pivot to the front. Both feet are going to go towards the front and then towards the side of the mat, bending into my right knee, coming into Skandasana, up on the left heel here. This is the first skanda of the class, so if you need to be up on your hands or seated on blocks, feel free to do so. Sinking gingerly into the right hip and the left hamstring. Dig your left heel into the mat. Draw it, magnetize it towards your right heel to turn on the right hamstring. Ignite the left quad, left hamstring. Pivot to face the front of the mat. Spinning on the balls of both feet. Now we're in supported lunge. Extend the right leg towards straight, long stance pyramid pose. So the back heel can be nice and lifted here, way high up on the tippy toes. And if you have your blocks nearby, might be a good idea to grab them. If you have wood or cork, something stable, you can even take them on the medium setting here or in the low setting. Square your hips towards the front of the mat. Inhale your heart forward. As you exhale, push down and away. Puff up the back of the heart and think about vacuuming your right leg up into the hip socket. Maybe you can float your right foot. Maybe it just feels light. If it floats, draw it back, straight and strong to floating down dog. And then even harder, plug it up into the hip socket. Puff up through the back of the heart. So create space. Push the ground down and away. Bring it back forward to hover and lower. Beautiful. Fold. Let's do that one more time. Inhale forward. Spine and gaze long. Exhale, hug your navel in and up. Create space. Vacuum your right leg bone into the socket. Slide it back. Hovering down dog. Up high on the back tippy toes. Vacuum your right leg bone into the socket. Slide it forward. Hover, wiggle the toes, and release. Beautiful. Shift the weight into the right leg, standing L. Maybe you take your hands off blocks here so that you can be in a nice standing L. Square the hips, all 5 toes on the left foot. Point towards the ground. Nice long spine leading through the crown of the head. Micro bend into the right knee here for balance. Pull your hands to heart center. It's okay if you wobble or fall. Cactus the arms. Think about funky cobra arms as we begin to pick our torso up. Bring our left leg through. Dancing Shiva variation. So bend in both knees. You guys know I love to do dancing Shiva anything. So it makes its way into almost any flow. Stay here for a second, or freeform dancer Shiva. Also a good excuse to kind of challenge your balance as you kick your blocks out of your way. Pause. Inhale, grows taller. Exhale, wind your left foot behind your right. Take your right hand to your left wrist. And as you inhale, open up your heart towards the sky. Nice stretch along the left side body. Next exhale brings you back towards dancing Shiva. Take an inhale to grow tall. Exhale, slow motion winds you back. And as you inhale, open up the sternum. Next exhale brings you back. Take a deep inhale. And slowly release your foot to the ground. Inhale to grow tall. Exhale, hinge at the hips, fold forward. And actually widen your feet out to about hip distance. Bend in the knees, generously ragdoll here. Giving ourselves some time to open up and find compression of the low belly to the thigh. You can grab opposite elbows. And let your head hang heavy. Returning to your breath if you have lost it. Beautiful. Inhale, halfway lift. And as you exhale, you can watch closely if this is the first time that you've done this class, or you can just follow along. We're going into Uttanasana leans. So after you inhale and extend the spine, as you exhale, you're going to shift the weight into the hands. Arms are nice and straight. Come up high into the tippy toes. Puff the back of the heart. And this time you're actually going to take your head in towards your shins and curl. Trust your fingertips. Claw them into the mat. Vacuuming your leg bones up and into the hip socket. Inhale, lowers the heels. Heart forward. Exhale, vacuum the leg bones up. Puff the back of the heart up. Really puff the back of the heart up. It's going to make a big difference. Separate the scapula. Pull your nose in towards your shins. One more time. Inhale forward. Trust your hands. Exhale, claw the fingertips in. Weight in the hands, very light on the toes. Slowly release. Now your choice, whatever vinyasa or skip the vinyasa that you would like to do to get back to downward facing dog. Moving forward to balance ourselves out. Inhale your left leg straight and strong. Exhale, left knee towards the left armpit. Inhale, drop it to the wrist. Exhale, draw it back up. Inhale, drop. Exhale, drop back up. Inhale, drop. Exhale, drop back up and hold. Next inhale brings you back, three-legged dog. Exhale, cross the body, left knee, right armpit. Inhale, down. Exhale, hug it up. Inhale, down. Exhale, hug it up. Inhale, down. Exhale, hug it up and hold. Curl your heel in towards your sit bone. Extend on an inhale. Beautiful. Grab your paintbrush between your toes and begin to draw, begin to create. Decorate your space. Pause. Bend your left knee, open up the hip. Come up high onto the right tippy toes. Spin to the outer edge of the right foot. Bend the knee enough to plant the whole foot. Left arm, left knee high. Vashisthasana, ping dog variation. Curl the heel in towards the sit bone. Push the right hand down and away from you. Close the hip. Begin to puff up through the back as you come up high on the right tippy toes. Curling, spinning the left leg towards the top of the mat. Silently. Planting it, landing in supported lunge. Take your left hand to the inside of your left foot. Walk your left foot out a few inches. Whew. Lizard. Even here in this upright lizard, think about leading through the sternum. So broaden your collarbones. Don't let the shoulders collapse forward. Keep the left knee hugged in towards the left shoulder. Beautiful. Keep the right arm planted with the left arm up to the sky. Straighten the left leg. Pivot so that both feet now face the left on the knife edge of both feet. Maybe we take some Anuttanasana dips. Inhaling hips up. Exhaling hips low. Inhaling hips up. Exhaling hips low. Inhale up, and this time circle sweep around, keeping the bend into the left knee. Coming into Skandasana, also known as Ardha Malasana. Facing the right edge of our mat. Dig your right ankle into the mat. Right heel into the mat. Magnetize it towards your left heel. Turn on the right hamstring. Engage the right quad. Returning to the breath, trying to soften with each exhale just slightly. And when you're ready, pivot towards the front of the mat, back into this high stance lunge, straightening the left leg, gathering our blocks. We're back to these terrible pyramid hovers, but these are so helpful because they teach us to learn to use our hip flexors, which are so important in pressing, but also kind of in stepping to the top of the mat. So many useful postures. Whatever setting you'd like, square the hips towards the front of the mat by scissoring the inner thighs together. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, push down and away, puff up the back of the heart, float or feel light or pretend you're floating your left leg. Slowly bring it back, hovering down dog. Vacuuming it up into the hip socket, let's bring it forward. Wiggle the toes, slowly release and fold. Beautiful, let's try that again. Inhale, heart and gaze forward. Exhale, push down and away. Puff up the back of the heart. Vacuum your leg into the hip socket. Slowly bring it back. Straight and strong. Plug it in. Come up high into the right tippy toes. Create the space. Puff up through the back of the heart. Bring it forward. Hover. And release. Bend deeply into the left leg. Bring your fingertips in front of the block. Standing out. Whew. Tiny pulses in the back leg, because why not? Generous bend into the left knee for support. Pull your hands through heart center to dancing Shiva. Bring the right leg through. Generous bend in both knees here for your dancing Shiva. And again, nice opportunity to, excuse me, move the blocks out of the way. Challenging the balance, challenging your little hip stabilizers here. Can they help you always keep the core toned? Pause. Take an inhale. Lengthen. As you exhale, curl your right foot behind your left. Begin to grab your right wrist with your left hand. And as you inhale, open up your sternum towards the sky. Exhale brings you back through to dancing Shiva. Inhale lifts you up. Exhale, slow motion, curl open. As you inhale, unfurl. Again. Exhale through dancing Shiva. Inhale to lift. Exhale, slow motion. Inhale, unfurl. Whew. Exhale, move back to dancing Shiva. Release the foot. And fold. Back to our Uttanasana leans. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the palms, weight in them, straighten the arm, puff up the back of the heart. High up on those tippy toes as you vacuum your thighs to your low belly. Inhale, lower the heels, halfway lift. Exhale, trust your fingertips. Tuck your head in, bring your forehead towards your shins. Feel your shoulder blades separate, so keep that wrap of the triceps. Slowly lower. One more time. Inhale, heart and gaze forward. Exhale, high up on those tippy toes. Shh. Compress. Create space by hugging that navel to the spine. Slowly release your heels back down, halfway lift. And again, vinyasa of your choice, or skip the vinyasa. We'll meet you in downward facing dog. Everybody getting warm now? I am. Maybe it's just a jungle. So kind of getting into more of our Papa flow, as Erin and I always call it, or the longer flow, before we get into kind of more of the drilly based section. Inhale the right leg long behind you. Exhale, right knee to right armpit. Inhale, take it back. Exhale, cross the body, right knee to left armpit. Unfurl, so extend the right leg to the left, roll onto the inner edge of the left foot. Lift the left arm up towards the sky. Use the right inner thigh to pulse your right foot up towards the sky. Now pause, tap your right foot to the earth, and then pick it up. Tap it, pick it up. Tap it, pick it up. Tap it, pick it up. Put it down, let it stay there, slide it out a little bit. Take this into a fallen triangle. Now look down at your right hand, much slower than you'd like to. Push the ground away so you can slowly, very, 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 very slowly lower your sit bones down to the earth. Whew. Yes, it's going to be okay. Reward yourself with a wide-legged forward fold, removing the flesh from underneath your sit bones. And with a flat back, folding forward, legs are nice and engaged. Slowly make your way back to a comfortable seat. Take some Mula Bandha checkups. So if you've never done those with me before, what it looks like is forcing our hip flexors, our quads, our Mula Bandha, our locks, our body locks to help lift us up and find some lightness. We're going to start with our hands on either side of the right thigh. And I know I'm not facing you guys, but if you listen, I think you'll be okay. So as I plant my hands on either side of my right thigh, I'm going to inhale my heart forward. And as I exhale, I'm going to push down and away, puff up the back of my heart, and I'm going to lift up my legs but leave my sit bones lifted. It sucks. It's going to be okay. And slowly lower. This time I'm going to do that, but I'm going to lift my sit bones and leave my heels lifted. So inhale forward. Exhale, push the ground down. You can slam your hands and pick up your sit bones, engage your quads. Heels can stay down and lower. And you can probably guess where this is going. Level 3 is lift everything up, or even if it's just your intentions. So inhale forward. Exhale, slam the hands down, puff the back of the heart up and hover. Slowly lower. Beautiful. Let's take it to the other side. Left. You can do all of them on one level. You can do all 3 levels again with me. It's your choice. I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other leg. So inhale forward. Exhale, push down, puff at the back of the heart, lift the legs, and lower. Inhale forward. Exhale, puff, lift up the sit bones, and lower. Inhale forward. Exhale, slam the hands down, prepare and lift everything up. Yes, lower. Beautiful, plant your hands at the front of the mat, tuck your left toes, suck your right knee in towards your nose, send it back, 3-legged dog. Bend the knee, open up the hip, coming back into Vashisthasana here. So bending the left knee enough where I can plant the whole sole of the foot. Take the right hand to the right knee, or take the right arm to the sky. Maybe from here you can extend your right leg, flexing the foot, close the hip, plug the leg up into the hip socket, so make it shorter. Vacuum it. Puff up the back of the heart, and without using your right hand, maybe you can carefully, slowly bring the right foot to the top of the mat, hovering as you get there, and then release. My right arm is still up to the sky. Guess where we are? That same prep position where we were before. Slide your toes to the left, to the right. Maybe we take some Anushanasana dips. And your next time up, we'll swing it around back to our Skandasana, bending into the right knee. Beautiful. Whew. Enjoying relaxing into this Skandasana here for just a second. We got a little bit more to go in this flow, guys, so power up that energy. Let's take it back to our Anushanasana, so swing it back around to the right. Beautiful. And then curl back to the front of the mat, prepping for crescent pose. Square the hips, magnetize the feet together, come up to a stand. Beautiful. Tuck the tailbone here so that we send a nice stretch to the right or to the left hip flexor, bending deeply into the front leg. Straighten both legs, spin it on over to the left, prepping for wide-legged forward fold. Toes maybe slightly turned in, hands at the hips, fold forward with a flat back. Your choice of hand positioning here. Also, it's a great place, if you like to invert, take an inversion. If you're not inverting and you're on the ground, let's practice on magnetizing our inner ankles towards the midline. So we tend to get lazy in this posture and kind of slide out to the outer edges of our feet. Magnetize your inner ankles as someone who's pulling you in. Push the big toe mound into the earth. Beautiful. If you're upside down, safe travels back to earth. We'll meet in a halfway lifted position. Now we're going to take those same Uttanasana leans that we did facing the front of the mat. We're going to do them in our straddle position. And we won't be able to get as much vacuum because our feet are farther apart, which means our hips are lower. But that's okay. It's just the motion that we're interested in. So inhale, heart forward. Exhale, come up high into the tippy toes. Puff the back of the heart. Bring your head almost between your knees. Inhale, slow, lower. Spine and gaze long. Exhale, space between the shoulder blades, cat spine. One more time. Inhale, forward. Exhale, beautiful. Slowly lower the heels. Turn the toes out, heels in. Come up, goddess pose. Bending deeply into the knees here. Tucking the tailbone slightly. Widening the knees out to the side. Take your hands behind your head. Interlace your fingers. Take some side dips. So inhale up. Exhale, right elbow, right knee. Inhale, exhale, left. Inhale, right. Exhale, left. Inhale, right. Inhale, left. Inhale, right. Inhale, shh. Keep going. Shh. 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 One more on each side. Shh. Here from your goddess pose, take your arms out to a side. Begin to spin towards the top of the mat as if you're going to crescent with a bent back leg, but then continue spinning, making your way down to cow face pose. You might need to adjust your legs, adjust the flesh from underneath your sit bones. And totally your choice for this cow face pose if you want more of the shins parallel, feet flex variation, or the heels in close, top of the feet, Janu Shirshasana foot. Completely your choice, just don't force that top knee down. Whatever arm position you'd like as well. Returning to your breath. Even here, let's go back to the toning of the outer hips. So squeeze your sit bones together. What does that do? Lifts you up a little bit, yeah? Maybe brings your knees a little bit closer together, just with the power of the hips, instead of forcing your hands down on your knees, which is how we get injury in the knees. We're going to make our way back to goddess the same way we came in. You can use your hands. It's generally easier to use your hands getting out. Sweeping towards the top of the mat. And then coming back into goddess, take your hands to your knees and just let your tailbone go back out behind you. And just give some love to your hips here. And release. Tuck your tailbone, pivot back towards the front of your mat, back in our crescent pose with the bent back leg. Okay, some skiing motion with our dancing Shivas. So take your hands out kind of to cactus or to funky cobra arms. Lean the torso forward, roll to the top of the foot, and using the power of the right leg, bring the left leg through dancing Shiva. Tip the torso forward, curl the heel in towards the sit bone, reach the top of the left foot back, then roll, crescent. Tip it forward. If you want to keep your hands at your hips, that's fine too, or out to your side, whatever makes you feel more buoyant. Dancing Shiva, moving fluid, much slower than we'd like to, of course. Tucking the tailbone each time we get into crescent. Dancing Shiva, tip, reach, roll, tip, roll, reach, reach, tip, roll. One more. We'll end up back in our dancing Shiva. From your dancing Shiva, take yourself into floating tree. That's just what it sounds like. So your left foot is floating out in tree, but not actually resting onto your right leg. Yes, it's terrible. From here, open up the body to the left. In slow motion, reach your left foot to goddess. Beautiful. Turn the torso forward. Roll to the edge of the big toe. Come back. It's okay if you wobble. You can tap your toe first. Shiva. Floating tree. Open. Goddess. I'm going much faster than I would like to, actually. Turn the torso. Roll. Shiva. Floating tree. Open. Goddess. Twist. Toe. Shiva. One more. Floating tree. Open. Goddess. Twist. Toe. Shiva. Beautiful. Again, floating tree. Keep the heel curled into the sit bone. Keep that external rotation of the left knee. Begin to arc the body forward like coming into an arabesque. Curl the heel in towards the sit bone. Then extend the left leg long behind you. Fingertips reach behind you. Airplane. Beautiful. Bring your hands down, supported L. Grab your blocks. Or stay on fingertips. A little bit more than shoulder distance apart here just to get some clearance. You'll know what I mean in just a second. Flex your left toes. Plug your left leg into the sit bone. Slowly lower to hover the left foot, wiggle the toes. Now, stay here or bring it through, bending into the right knee, pistol squat. You can come up onto your right toe. You don't have to use your hands here if you don't need to. If you're a ninja, that's chill. Slowly reverse it. Standing L, pulse. Back of the left heel towards the sky. Again, bring it down, pistol squat. Bring it back up, standing L. Bring it down to hover, wiggle the left toes. Now, I'm going to have to move over a little bit. Slice the left foot out to the left. This is terrible, I know. Flex the foot, use the knife edge. Pulse. Slowly lower. One more time. Pulse the left foot. Pulse, pulse, pulse. Slowly lower. And this time, release it into a ragdoll. Wiggle the legs. Whew. Take a deep inhale through the nose, and as you exhale, flutter the lips and fold. Let's do that again. Inhale. Exhale. Maybe giving yourself a little massage in the right outer hip if that's feeling like it's burning a bit for you. I totally feel you. Moving my blocks out of the way just lightly. Walking my feet out to a little more than hip distance. Toes out, sinking down into Malasana. Just enjoying some nice hip love. Unless you hate Malasana, and then it's maybe not hip love. Pushing your triceps into your knees into your tricep, lifting up through the sternum. Whew. Now your choice here, you can take this Malasana into a crow, jump back into a chaturanga and take a vinyasa. You can step it on back. You can come back up into a half lift and take a vinyasa, or you can just step back to downward facing dog. Whatever feels better for you. From your downward facing dog, inhale your left leg. Exhale, left knee, left armpit. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, cross the body, left knee, right armpit. Extend your left leg, roll to the inner edge of your right foot. Right arm grows light. Pulse the inner edge of your left leg up towards the sky. I know it's terrible. Now tap your left toe. Tap, tap. One more time. Tap, stay, slide it out, ball and triangle. Whew. Right side body, love. Look down at your left hand, push the ground away. Slower than you want. Lower down. Yes. Take a wide-legged forward fold. Again, just to kind of return you to your breath. Searching for that compression. So leading with the sternum here, sending the sit bones out and wide behind you. So we've been doing some gathering of the sit bones today, but there's also some spreading and wide to get us some compression. If your forearms are on the ground, you can dig them into the mat and pull them towards your hips. It's going to rock you to the front of your sit bones and give you a little bit more of that compression, help you lead with your sternum. Slowly come back up to a seat. Now we're not going to do Mula Bandha checkups. Of course, if you really like them, you can. We're going to do another drill. So grab your blocks. Put them on either side of your right leg. I'm at about a 90-degree angle here. That works fine. And they're up near my right ankle. It's easier. If you want to make it harder, bring them back, closer to your right inner thigh and your right outer thigh. So from here, I'm going to take my hands behind me just to certain that I can sit up nice and straight. Pull my navel in towards my spine. Just get some really nice length here. I'm going to tone both my legs. And using the strength of my right quad, my hip flexor, I'm going to pick up my right leg and I'm going to move it on the back side of my back block. Then I'm going to pick it up, move it in the middle. Pick it up, move it to the front. If that was way too hard with your blocks in the high setting, put them in the low setting. If it was way too easy, and you're like, it's whatever, it's no problem. Take 2 blocks. You'll just have to either get another 2 blocks or just move them back and forth. You could just do a couple here. It's kind of working our inner thigh a little bit, our outer thigh, our quad, everything. Our hip flexor, psoas. So give yourself some love. Whee! So fun. Take another 30 seconds or so on the right side, doing whatever it is that you feel. And don't sacrifice the length of the spine here in this drill. So if you need to sit with your back towards a wall, that's a great plan. You can also, if you get some seizing, use one of the blocks to kind of work out those kinks. When you're ready, let's switch to the left leg. And again, it's easier if it's by the ankle. And that's because if the blocks are over here, I have to lift it higher than if the block is right there. Okay. Logic, Hands behind you. Move the legs. You can experiment with going quickly and slow here. I think that quickly is just as bad as slow. So that's just me. And again, if this feels too hard, go to a low setting or a medium setting. If you're like, I did it on the high side and the other leg, I better balance myself out. Whew, my hip flexors are not even. This one is hard for me. Again, those audible breaths, especially the exhale, will force you to turn on your core. Now, the only thing you have to be careful with is as you exhale and you turn on your rectus abdominis or those, those exterior abs, they don't also pull you into flexion. Beautiful. So move our blocks back towards the front of our mat. We know that we're going to need them in a little while. Plant our hands there. Tuck the right toes. Vacuum the left knee in towards the nose. Send it back, 3-legged dog. Pulling the left heel in towards the sit bone, opening up the hip. High up on the right tippy toes, Vashisthasana here. Bending the right knee enough to plant the sole of the right foot. Left hand, left knee high. From here, you can either grab your knee or you can extend your left leg. Close your left hip, flexing your left foot, plugging the leg bone up into the socket, and slowly pushing the right hand down and away from you. Begin to cat the spine. Left fingers are still lifted. Bring the left toes to the top, maybe floating. And then slowly, carefully, silently place that left foot onto the mat, reaching the left fingertips up. Spin both feet to the left. Legs are nice and straight on the knife edge of the feet. And then bend into that left knee. Anushanasana dips with the breath. On our next lift, let's take ourselves to Skandasana. Bending into the left knee. Beautiful. Sinking here, regrounding down, getting our breath. And then let's go back to our Anushanasana. Before we make our way into prep for crescent, tuck the back knee, tuck the tailbone, magnetize the feet together. Carefully come up Sink generously into the left knee. Keeping the tuck of the tailbone, we'll send the stretch into the right hip flexor, which we just worked really hard with some of those drills. Straighten both legs. Take it into wide-legged forward fold. Feet are parallel or toes slightly turned in. Another chance to invert. Another chance not to invert. You know, whatever it is you choose. If you'd like to take some other arm variation, a twist, whatever brings you joy. Rocking to those inner ankles. If you're upside down, safe travels back to earth. We'll meet in our halfway lift position, prepping for our Uttanasana leans. So inhale, heart forward. Exhale, high up on the tippy toes. Shh. Puff the back of the heart up, tuck the head in, squeeze the legs. Inhale, lower the heels, half lift. Exhale, shh. Vacuum the legs up into the hip socket. Feel the space grow between the shoulder blades. Inhale, lift. Last time, exhale, shh. Up we go. Inhale, lower the heels, turn the feet out, heels in, come up, goddess pose. Tuck the tailbone. You can stay here, just trying to sink a little bit lower into your goddess, or you can take your hands behind your head and do some more of those side dips. It's really up to you and what you need in your practice. If you need some more of that oblique and even a little bit of QL work, take it. Really make sure you keep that tailbone tucked. A lot of times in our goddess, we tend to kind of flare it out behind us. And while that can be a nice stretch, it's not what we're going for here in kind of these core stabilizing exercises. Or you can just stay, maybe bouncing a little bit, sinking in. If you're doing your side dips, finish up. We'll be making our way into cow face pose, this time spinning to the left, so almost going through crescent with a bent right leg, and then continuing tucking our legs under. We got the left leg on top of right this time. Readjusting as needed. Picking your foot position again, so heels in close, top of the feet, or shins parallel to the side edge of your mat and feet flex. Knife edges digging into the mat so that your ankles are nice and engaged and you're not sending this to your knee. Arm variation of choice. If you took cow face arms on one side, which is these Gomukhasana arms, make sure you balance yourself out on this side as well. Pulling navel in and up. Release your bind of your hands if you have it. We'll make our way back into goddess. So using our hands again is a little bit easier. Spinning it around. This time widening our sit bones, letting ourselves relax a little bit deeper. See if we can maybe get our hips down even lower than our knees. Maybe. Not for me today, apparently. Tucking our tailbone, curving back to the front of our mat. Nice crescent pose here. Take the arms out to cactus or dancing Shiva. Roll to the top of the foot, tilt the torso forward. Come up, dancing Shiva. Beautiful. Tilt the torso, reach the top of the foot back. Roll, crescent. Tip, roll, lift. Tip, reach, roll. Tip, roll, lift. Tip, reach, roll. Tip, roll, lift, tip, reach, roll. Again, tip, roll, lift, tip, reach, roll. Stay in dancing Shiva the next time you get there. Floating tree. Wide the knee out without touching the right foot to the left thigh. Now open the hips up to the right. Reach the right toe. Carefully land into goddess. Beautiful. Pivot the torso. Pivot onto the back toe. And come back to dancing Shiva. Floating tree, open hip, reach, goddess. Pivot hips, big toe, dancing Shiva. Floating tree, open hip, reach, goddess. Pivot, toe, reach. Floating tree, hip, reach. Pivot, toe, up. Floating tree, hips, reach. Next time, we'll stay in our dancing Shiva. Beautiful. Floating tree. Keeping the knee out to the side. Begin to curl the heel in towards the sit bone. Reach the torso forward. Extend the back leg. Airplane pose. Square the hips. Bring the fingertips down to the earth and then gather your blocks. Flex those right toes. Plug the leg bone to the socket. Drop the right leg slowly. Hover the right toes next to the left. Stay here or bring it through. Pistol squat, bending into the left knee. Come back up, vacuum the leg in to create space. L, bring it down, through. Bring it up, beautiful. Bring it down to hover, wiggle the toes. Using the strength of the outer right hip, slice the foot out to horizontal. Pulse, pulse, pulse. Slowly lower. One more time. Slice that right foot out. Pulse, 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 pulse. Slowly lower and shake it out. Move your blocks. Take this into a ragdoll. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Flutter your lips, side out and fold. Again, inhale through the nose. Flutter the lips, side out and fold. Letting the breath return to normal here. If you'd like to take another malasana and take a crow hop back to chaturanga, you're welcome to. Otherwise, you can just take your vinyasa of choice and meet us back in downward facing dog. Taking your time to get to downward facing dog. Softening your breath. Next, inhale, lifts your right leg straight and strong. Exhale, right knee to nose. Keep the right knee bent, bend the left leg. Cross the right ankle over the left thigh, flex the right foot, figure 4 down dog. Really important to flex the right foot here and widen the right knee out to the right. You can stay high up on those back tippy toes or drop the heel down, but keep the back leg bent. Now, widen the sit bones out and back. Widen them, broaden them. Wing your elbows wide. Wrap your triceps back. Beautiful. High up into those back tippy toes. Spin to the inner edge of the left foot. Tent the left fingertips, or maybe the left hand grows light. Here we are in this reverse wild thing figure 4 position. Back leg is still bent. The entire sole of the foot is planted. You can stay here or drop the left arm by the ear. You can maybe even practice extending the right leg and then bringing it back. Extending and then bringing it back. Extending, bringing it back. Holding, coming back through our downward facing dog here, and then pivoting to Vashisthasana, so out of the outer edge of that left foot, bending the knee enough to keep the whole sole planted. Again, right foot is firmly flexed. Right arm up or over the ear. Beautiful. Maybe the left leg works a little bit towards straight, if that's comfortable, or not. Coming back to our downward facing dog here. From here, in your downward facing dog, slide your right leg to the inner edge of your left thigh. So this is more like a tree downward facing dog. If you need to readjust a little bit to get there, that's fine. Your right foot can be down on your calf or up on your inner thigh, just not on your knee. Widen your right knee out to the right. High up on the tippy toes. Inhale, round forward, plank pose, still in tree. Exhale, lower to chaturanga in tree for 3, 2, 1. Hold. Lower to the earth, still in tree. Take a cobra pose, still in tree. Peel your heart back down to the earth. Tuck your left toes. Really engage both your legs. Push the right sole of your foot into your left thigh. We're going to pick this back up to plank. So take a deep inhale and exhale out the mouth. Push it up. Tree. Send yourself back to downward facing dog. And release those right toes. Beautiful. Inhale, left leg. Exhale, left knee to nose. Keep it there. Bend the right knee. Cross the left ankle over the right thigh. Flex the left foot really firmly. Figure 4 down dog. Widen your sit bones out and back. Reaffirm the wrap of your triceps. So wing the elbows. Wrap them back. Micro bend. Plug the upper arm bones into the shoulder socket. High up onto the right toes. Spin to the inner edge. Reverse wild thing. Planting the whole sole of the foot. Maybe the right arm comes to the ear. Stay here or extend the left leg, bring it back. Extend, bring it back. Extend, bring it back. One more time. Extend, bring it back. Curl the right arm back down, back through figure 4 down dog, and then over to Vashisthasana. So bending
the right knee enough where we can get to the outer edge of the foot and then plant the whole sole of the foot. Slowly come back. From your figure 4 down dog, let's make our way into a tree down dog. So again, your left foot on your inner left thigh, or inner right thigh, or your inner right calf or shin, not on the knee. Next, inhale, rounds you forward, high up on the tippy toe plank. Lower through chaturanga for 3, 2, 1. Hold. Lower to the belly. Take a cobra. Slowly drip your heart back down. Tuck your right toes. Really engage your legs. Take a deep inhale. And as you exhale, push back up to plank. Send it back. Downward facing dog. Release the left toes. Inhale high up into the tippy toes. Look between the hands. Exhale, bend the knees deeply. At the bottom of the exhale in the no breath, float up. Malasana yogi squat. Feet are hip or mat width apart here. Taking just a minute to regain our breath. Then walk your torso down between your knees. So get really low. You can bounce a little bit. Usually helps me. Reach the fingers forward, curve the back. So pull your navel in and up, puff the back of the heart up. Think like cat pose. Reach forward as you send the sit bones back, trying to extremely slowly lower the sit bones to the earth. Beautiful. Take your hands, peace fingers, around the big toe, rock to the inner edges of your sit bones. Extend your legs as much as you can. Pull on your toes. It's going to help you lift with your sternum. Beautiful. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Now stay here or release your hands. Stay here or pulse your legs. Keep a nice long spine. No use sacrificing spinal length just for this. Grab your toes. Pull yourself up. Whew. You never thought this supported boat felt so good, did you? Until you let go. Let's do it again. Let go. Pulse. Beautiful. Bring your toes to the ground in front of you. Squeeze the big toe mounts together. Curl into a little ball. As you inhale, we'll bring it back up to boat. Exhale brings us down. Curl. Inhale, lift. Exhale, curl. Inhale, lift. Exhale, widen the knees, touch the toes. Inhale, lift. Exhale, widen the knees, touch the toes. Inhale, lift. Exhale, widen the knees, clamp the arms around the shins, pull your heart forward. Take a breather here. Next, inhale, lifts us back to boat. We're going to go through that same squeezing position again, and there is an arm balance. It's kind of like a weird way into crow. So as you exhale, get your arms clamped around your leg. Now this is really hard for me, especially because I'm all sweaty, but you can plant your hands and rock up into almost essentially a crow if you rock far enough. But you can plant your hands. Let's see if it happens for me, guys. It rarely does. Yeah. Almost coming up into a strange crow. Whew. So if you want to play with that for a second, it's terrible, much more terrible than regular crow, I promise. It might help to put your hands a little bit wider, and for me, it helps to kind of get my armpits as close down to my shins as I possibly can. So give that a try. Otherwise, give yourself a wrist rake by taking your hands into chicken, so the back of your hands towards your armpits, because that's another thing. It's a really deep wrist extension, much more than regular crow, since you kind of have to give that little rock forward. And once you're ready, moving along again, you could take any of these other boat variations, or your next inhale can bring you up to boat. And as you exhale, sling on your backpack straps. So that's throwing your legs over your tricep. Still sitting on the front of my sit bones here. Rocking forward, planting my hands. Next inhale takes me out of it, coming back to boat. Exhale, put on my backpack straps, rocking forward. Maybe this time I rock up, interlace my feet, lead with my sternum. Next inhale, lowers me slowly back down. Exhale to ground. Inhale to lift. You can guess where we're going. Exhale, sling on your backpack straps high up by the shoulders. Inhale, rock it forward. Exhale to ground. Inhale to lift the legs, one or both. Firefly. Beautiful. Slowly lower. Hug it on in. So again, your choice when you get back to downward facing dog. That means you'd like to try one of these boat transitions, go to that weird crow again, shoot back from the crow. If you'd like to take your Firefly or your Titibasana and take that into a crow and then shoot back, if you just like to shoot back from your Firefly, all just fun transitions that you can do. If your wrists need a break, I recommend rolling over and just making your way back to downward facing dog. But you've got about a minute to get there, so take your time. Once you're in your downward facing dog, we're going to take that little side plank, reverse wild thing, tree, chaturanga variation we did and take it one step further. So if this doesn't work for you, please just take it in that same variation again, because some of this is hip flexor and quad and some of this is hamstring lengthening. It's a lot of things involved. Your outer hip may just be very tired by now. So as you inhale, bring your right leg up. Now, we want to bring our right leg through to reverse wild thing, but I want you to try to do it straight. So come up high into the left tippy toes. See if you can drop the right foot, really flex the toes, plug the leg bone into the socket. Do you have space to slide it through and over to the left? Rolling to the inner edge of the left foot, lifting the left arm up. Beautiful. Now, do you have space with a straight leg to move to Vashisthasana? So bringing your left palm down, coming high onto those left tippy toes. Can you squeak that leg in? Maybe bring it behind you. Open up the hip. And come into Vashi. If you'd like to bend the knee briefly to grab your toe, you're more than welcome to. If you have the toe, release it. Bring the hand down. Pivot so you're back in downward facing dog, but send your right leg out to the side. So just like we did with those side slices, send it out to the side, flexing the toe. Round forward, plank, leg out to the side. I know it's super terrible. Lower chaturanga for 3, 2, 1, all the way to your belly. Look at your right leg, bring it directly out from the side of you. Toes point forward. Next inhale takes you through a cobra. Exhale brings you back to the ground. We're going to try to get back up to plank from here. So that means having really strong legs, really strong outer hip. Point to your right toes towards the top of your mat. Squeeze your sit bones gently together. Ignite both your quads. Take a deep inhale and exhale through the mouth. Push back up. Take it back. Downward facing dog. Right leg lifted. And slowly release. Great job, guys. Let's do the other side. And then we're almost made it. Inhale, left leg. High up into those right tippy toes. Plug the left leg into the socket. See if you can slide it down. And then over to the right. Reverse wild thing. Beautiful. Bringing the right palm back down. Coming up high into the right tippy toes. Sliding it back to three-legged dog. Opening up the hip. Vashisthasana. Again, your choice if you'd like to grab your toe or not. If you do have your toe, release it. Coming back into three-legged dog, but instead opening up the left leg to the left. Let me move over a little bit. That's the terrible part. Round forward, three-legged plank, left leg out to the side. Ooh, I got this wall again here. It's fabulous. Lower to chaturanga for 3, 2, 1. All the way to the belly. Send your left leg out directly perpendicular to your right, so 90-degree angle between them. Inhale brings you up, cobra. Exhale, lower down. Fire yourself up to lift back up to plank. Tuck your right toes. Engage your legs. Point your left toes towards the front of your mat. Both legs are super strong. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Push back up to plank. And slide it back, three-legged dog. And downward facing dog. Fabulous. Slowly lower both knees. Walk your hands back to your knees. And look up at me. Fabulous. So that was the flow. Are you guys sweaty? I'm sweaty. I'm not even in the sun. So I do want to show you one drill. I told you we would get to puppy pressing, and we will. If your hips aren't totally dead and your arms aren't dead, then there is a really fun drill using a wall or a friend or a chair or something really heavy. I'm going to show you the drill, and then I'm going to encourage you to pause the video. At that point, you can try the drill. If the drill is something that just seems like really too scary for you at this time, then I encourage you, and even if you do want to do the drill and do this after, I encourage you to do some authentic movement practice. And we talk about this a little bit in some of my other videos, but authentic movement practice is kind of putting on your favorite song or silence, but generally music helps, especially if you're new to it, and just moving, not worrying about what you're doing, not worrying about doing things on the same side, just letting your body wiggle and move, maybe throwing in a pose every now and again to see how your body reacts to it. And obviously, staying safe. So if something hurts and is painful, we avoid it. But just this idea of creative freedom of nobody cares if of the 500 movements you do, 499 of them are terrible, because maybe there's that one transition that you would have never done in real life, but in your authentic movements, it suddenly came up. It's just how your body wanted to move, and you're like, wow, that's really interesting. I've never thought of getting into Warrior 3 from that position before, because most of us don't dream of ways to get into Warrior 3 on our free time. So just a thought, 3 to 5 minutes. If you're really into it, 10 minutes. It's also a great time. We're all warmed up, but we haven't cooled down to work on anything else. You've done a lot of hip opening today, so you could do some dragonfly work, some more firefly work, some straddle pressing work. Your arms are really strong, so there's just so many things that you could do. But first, I do want to show you this drill. And it is best with a wall, unless you have a really supportive friend nearby. But basically what we're going to take is kind of those Uttanasana leans and the slicing out of the edge of the foot and put them together. So it's going to be a little hard to tell from this angle for you guys, but I am going to stand with my left foot approximately 18 inches from the wall, and my feet are together. As I fold forward, I'm going to come to this halfway lift position. And you know how I did those Uttanasana leans? I came up high into the tippy toes, I puffed it through the back of the heart, and I pulled my nose in towards my shins. I'm going to do all those things, except that I'm not going to curl my head in towards my shins, because I want to see where I'm going, and there's much less of a likelihood that I'm going to roll over, and there's also much more of a likelihood that I'm going to trust myself if I can see where I'm going. And so if that means putting a pillow here too, totally fine. The important part here is that I'm looking just between my fingertips, just past them. And I'm looking mainly with my eyes, because if I take my head out here, there's no way I can puff up the back of my heart and get that nice catting position to really pull the navel into the spine and start to activate my transverse abdominis, my inner core muscle, which is my floating or my core set muscle. And if I break that back line and I can't use my floating muscle, it's going to be so much harder. So just mainly look with your eyes. Now from here, as I inhale, length, exhale, push down in the hands, puff up the back of the heart, high up under the tippy toes. Then, transferring the weight to my right leg, I'm going to flex my left toes, plug my left leg bone into the socket. Toes are super flexed. I'm going to take them, slice the knife edge of the foot out into the wall. I'm going to push it so hard into the wall. Equal weight into my hands, shifting more weight into my fingertips here. I'm pushing my legs so hard, my outer hips are turning on so hard that I can slice my right foot out directly to the side. It doesn't have to be for long. It's usually a really unpleasant feeling. Push, hold. Not worrying about getting my right leg up much higher, because it really can't if the left foot can't go up because there's a wall there. It's more worried about floating at the bottom 2 to 3 inches of this pressing, essentially getting yourself ready for a tick-tock puppy press. Because what this looks like is, when you were to take this into freestanding air, there's a popular puppy press that's going around where instead of curving one heel in, we simply come up high into the tippy toes, we push into our imaginary wall, and then the other foot lifts and come up. Now the thing is, I want you to practice that on both sides. So then you would flip around and practice pushing your right foot into the wall first. It's going to be much easier on one side. Usually it's easier when you push your weaker side into the wall first and your strong foot can stay on the floor. Now, if you practice a lot on both sides, you won't have a weaker or a stronger foot. So that can be really helpful. And again, if you feel like you can't necessarily, you don't feel good doing that, even if your other foot doesn't lift, even if I'm pressing, and I'm just practicing putting weight in my fingers and clawing the earth, that's great. You're still working the outer hip so much. So don't feel like the other foot has to float off the ground that you're getting the benefit of the drill, okay? You'll still feel your outer hip. It'll still be terrible, awful, wonderful. And if your hamstrings are really limiting you, you can bend your knees. You can still keep active legs and bend your knees. So I encourage you to push pause, give yourself 5 minutes at least to play with this drill, to do authentic movements. And when you're ready, I'll meet you in child's pose, but take your time. From your child's pose, slither your way onto your belly to reward our shoulders a little bit for all that hard work. Take a prone shoulder stretch. I like the cactus variation for me, so what that means is extending my right elbow directly out from my right shoulder. But take a minute to look at it. It needs to be directly out. It can't be behind or in front. Directly out. So we've got this nice 90-degree angle with our arm, and then a nice straight line from the shoulder to the elbow. Right palm is planted. Tent left fingertips, curl left heel in towards the sit bone. Right ear touches the ground as we use our left toes as a kickstand, rolling onto the right side of our body. You could push the left fingertips down and away from you. You could circle the left hand behind you and place it onto your sacrum. If this is still not enough, you can gently press your right hand into the mat or into the floor to turn on the pec tendons, the area that we're stretching. Slowly release. Let's take it to the other side. Left elbow directly out from left shoulder. Left ear on the ground. Kickstand the right toes. Pushing the right hand down and away from me. Maybe curling it around to my sacrum. Maybe not. Pushing my left hand into the mat a little bit more to turn this into more of an activated stretch. Slowly release. Make your way into Sphinx pose. Just opening up the belly a little bit. That was a lot of curling work that we did. Elbows underneath the shoulders. Broaden across the collarbones. Tuck the tailbone. Don't squeeze the glutes. Just a gentle tuck of the tailbone. Gentle engagement of the glute max. Dig your forearms down. Pull your elbows towards your hip. Pull your sternum forward. Push the back of your skull back. Keep those motions. Push your hands down. Lift your elbows up, broad across the collarbones. From here, keep your right hand where it is. Walk your left fingertips back about 6 inches. Roll onto your right hip. Push the ground down and away from you for a second with your right arm, and then let yourself sink in. Stretch along the right upper ribs. You can take your left hand behind you. Curl it around for a little kickstand. Beautiful. Let's release it, coming to the other side. Push the left hand down, walk the right fingers in, roll onto the left hip, push the ground down and away from you, so pull the shoulder away from the ear, and then sink in. Beautiful. Stretching along the left side ribs. Maybe you take your right hand behind you. Starting to let go of your breath at this point. Hope you had a fun, authentic movements practice, of course. I did mine this morning, if you're wondering why I didn't do mine. I like to keep these videos as short as possible, so in case you're a little crunched on time, I know my flows tend to be a little bit lengthy, so slowly roll your way back to center. Coming back onto your forearms, push back, walk your knees in, grab a block. Psoas release. We did a lot of psoas hip flexor work today, right? The bringing the leg to the top of the mat from our Vashisthasana, whether we did those pyramid hovers, Mula Bandha checkups, the straddle block lifts. I mean, it was never ending. So your psoas might be a little upset. And your psoas is kind of considered one of your core muscles and a hip flexor, and it's deep. So it means it's not superficial. It's not right on the top. It's deep in there. And it runs, from your leg bone, attaches to your hip, it attaches to the back of your ribs. And it plays a really strong role in that lifting of the leg. And so we need to kind of give it some love, because in general, most of our population has a short but a weak psoas. And what happens is, with a short but weak psoas, is when we're sitting like in our desk and we go into this anterior tilt of the pelvis, and the psoas pulls us into this lower back extension, and it shrinks and it gets shorter. It's not getting any stronger. It's just getting shorter, and it's staying weak. So we did a lot of strengthening work for it today, which is great, except the strengthening work also shortens, and it could pull your back into more of that lumbar extension than it already is. So we need to kind of soften that psoas a little bit. And what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to take the block, and you're going to put it between your belly button and your pubic bone. And for everybody, this is going to be a little bit different. And you might have to move the block over to the side a little bit, and we're going to lay over the block. It's not just going to like jam into our stomach here. The hardest part is forcing ourselves to relax, so we can get past those superficial muscles like the rectus abdominis and the obliques and start to maybe get into the psoas. So what this looks like is putting the block down and coming into a forearm tabletop with the block between our belly button and our pubic bone. And the hard part is I now must relax and sink into the block. And maybe you feel evilness right away. For me, what I usually have to do is I'm going to do my right side first. So I'm going to move a little bit closer towards my right hip with the edge of the block. So the right edge of my block is now digging into the inside edge of my right pelvis. So kind of getting into the edge of the psoas and the iliacus. And you'll know when you find your psoas, it's usually for most of us like a rope, and maybe digging into it makes you feel a little bit unhappy inside, maybe a little nauseous. Now, if you can't find it, sorry guys, this is difficult for me. I do a lot of psoas strengthening and not enough lengthening. You can dig your right knee into the mat. Be careful as you do this. Be careful, because as you dig your right knee and you're bringing your hip into flexion and you're turning on your psoas, so that should help you find it a little bit more. Once you find it, you can kind of sit there and enjoy the intensity. You can rock back and forth. You can explore and see if there's any stickier spots, you know. It's a big muscle too. It's pretty long. So getting in there, and maybe it's just your abs. Maybe your abs are even sore too. You know, there's a lot of benefits to this drill. I tend to be a little bit more tight, lower down, and towards the inner lip of my pelvis, so more by the iliacus. And if you've never done this before and you love it and you know you're going to stay for like 3 minutes on each side, again, feel free to stop the video and take as much psoas love as you would like. I'm going to move to my left side. So I'm moving the block a little bit more to the left. And I have a harder time finding my left psoas. It's not as tight, which should tell you something right away, and that's that my right leg does a lot more of the work, which is not good. But so for me, I usually do have to push my left knee into the mat, and then I'm like, oh, there it is. Oh, how pleasing, but not. So giving it some love. And again, if you're not feeling anything, just come back to this idea of relaxing over the block. And this is where if you have foam blocks, you know, it was great for those scapular push-ups, but it's not so great for something like this. You need the harder edge. Another couple breaths here. I'm going to pick myself up off my block very carefully. Oh, God. Move my block to the side. Make my way onto my back. Actually, I want my block kind of near me because I'm going to take a supported bridge. Give my hip flexors some love. I like the highest setting, but you take whatever setting you want. Heels in close to the sit bones. Feet slightly pigeon-toed. Tuck the tailbone. So don't go up into bridge already with this extension in your low back. Tuck the tailbone. Roll it underneath you, pull your navel in and up, and then pick the sit bones up. Slide the block underneath your sacrum. It's usually lower than you think. And just try to relax here. Obviously, we don't want our knees to splay out, so enough muscularization, enough activation to hug your legs in towards the midline. But other than that, let's just try to relax. Give the quads and the hip flexors and the belly a chance to kind of stretch out a little bit. And if you'd like to even play with this, you can extend one leg. See what that feels like without falling off your block, of course. Bring it back in. Other leg. Bring it back in. I like to grab onto my block and kind of give it a little tug. Give myself a little wrist release, finger release while I do this. Of course, don't pull too hard. So as I'm pulling with my hands, I'm kind of tucking my tailbone under more to push the block away from me to create tension. Slowly pick your sit bones up, remove your block, roll down one vertebrae at a time, elongating your low back. Feet wide, knees together. Constructive rest. When you're ready, walking your feet back to hip distance and just allowing them to windshield wiper from side to side. Massaging out the sacrum. It can be hard in the sacrum for a lot of deep hip work, which we didn't do too many deep hip poses today. That Anuttanasana, the Fallen Warrior, is pretty deep, especially if you sit down low. You know, but we weren't getting into, unless you were in your free time, some like Firefly or some Dragonfly. We did do Firefly, sorry. Dragonfly, like those deep twisted hip openers, can be intense on the sacrum. And everybody's hips are different. Next time you fall to the right, leave them there. Gentle spinal twist. If you'd like a little bit more, you could take your right ankle, cross it over your left thigh. Push your right foot into your left thigh, not your knee, into your thigh. Push it down and then away from you to kind of stretch out the left outer hip, the left hip flexor even a little bit. I am going to finish this slow just in time because it looks like it's going to start pouring around here. And even with this nice little mic, it's going to be very hard to hear me. Plus, it's Sunday here in the jungle, and Ben's thumping around upstairs. I don't know if you guys could hear him, but he probably is kind of pissed that this is taking so long. He wants to hang out. Slowly come back. Let's drop it over to the left. Maybe crossing the left ankle over the right thigh. If you are there, pushing the right ankle down and pulling it away from you. So pulling the skin of your right thigh away from you. You can even take your hand into your right hip so you can find some of those hip flexors. Feel like little cords, like little ropes. Slowly come back. Happy baby, or any other postures of choice. Maybe banana asana would feel good, or another deeper spinal twist. If you like plow pose, ear pressure pose, kind of whatever you'd like. Now that's another thing about like a lot of these advanced or more advanced classes is we start to assume that, you guys know what it is you're looking for and what it is that you need to work on, and you also have the motivation and the determination to work on those things then, And I know every day is different. I always say that, I take those higher motivation days and I use them to work on things that I really don't like. Because if I'm already motivated to get on my mat, I can usually force myself to do something terrible, like a bunch of single leg standing balances, which is like the bane of my existence. And if I don't have high motivation, if I'm really forcing myself to get on my mat, well, then I promise myself I'll do things I like, because moving is usually better than not moving at all. Whatever you're doing, start to wind down. Making our way into shavasana. Now, most of us probably don't have a blanket because I didn't say so at the beginning of class. But you can take blocks to your thighs, and if you have cork blocks, they work really well. So what I'm doing with the blocks is stopping my legs from externally rotating very much, so keeping kind of my hips in line. If you have a blanket, and you've seen some of my other classes, you can also wrap the blanket around your thighs and tuck it under. So I don't want to have to use the muscles of my legs to keep my legs upright, but these blocks will do so because my mat is so nice and sticky. And then I'm going to close my eyes, allow my shoulders to drip down towards the mat. Let go of any hold I have on my breath. Thank my body. Thank myself for taking this time to honor my body. And then release those thank yous and just try to be still and allow yourself
at least 2 to 3 minutes to process and download. You'll be coming out of this shavasana whenever you'd like, so please take your time. Thank you for practicing with me today. Namaste.